Composting is like a big part to me, especially when it comes to growing vegetable for myself. So I would say composting in its very bare essence is just simply how nature is breaking down whatever is organic matter in the environment. How I go about composting is just based on that very basic principle. So based on that, I have established, like, even along my corridor, and its very simple essence is just whatever that is not harvested for my consumption, it goes into as simple as a pot that will hold all these cuttings and stuff like that, that eventually would kind of break down and become compost. And of course, in my kitchen itself, I also have established a compost bin, and because being a kitchen and I would say a cleaner space, I try to keep the inputs as clean as possible, so I do not attract so much of insects and things like that. So it's a very clean compost setup that works, even though it takes, of course, a longer time because we do not have so much of the element and the insects and creatures to help accelerate the composting process. To, like, so-called elevate to the next level is where I do it on the rooftop. So rooftop is, I would say, anything goes, because now we are open to the environment, to the elements and everything. So I get bugs, I get earthworms and all kinds of things that comes. And this is where I can really apply all the organic waste that I have collected. Easily it can go into the rooftop compost bin, and whatever that comes out, usually I'll just apply it directly to my plot here. Based on the soil test, it has worked and it has high fertility. The nitrogen level is pretty high, to the extent that I feel that I can easily, like, do green manuring and chop and drop, and I do not have to worry about the nitrogen issue. Sometimes it can get quite windy, or sometimes when the hot season comes, or even like heavy rain, that I think it's been flooding all the time. So these are some of the challenges that potentially would create certain problems, and sometimes they are pests. So for the past, like, a year or so, we got some pretty major snail issues. So this is where I can't really grow a lot of leafy vegetables and things like that. I can see that the garden is also trying to adapt itself to the changes in terms of the weather, the biodiversity that is kind of changing from time to time. So I can also observe that I see different types of insects, be it pests or be it beneficial insects. So it's interesting. This is like also a garden that I'm learning, and also both myself adapting to it and itself also adapting to the changing conditions. When I was planning this garden, that was like before or after I went for PDC with the permaculture principles and permaculture design. I was hoping to maybe at least use some of the principles that I learned. Of course, some of the principles are not possible. So it's really how to adapt to the small space and the urban environment. It's also very experimental, so I'm always, like, trying different ways to see how best to establish the garden and grow produce that is also, I would say, suitable for this rooftop and our climate. Welcome to the garden. Let's have a very short tour of the garden itself. And I've got this rosemary growing here for the past maybe 2 years. Yeah, it's really growing very well, adapting very well to the rooftop condition. And we have some kind of wild lettuce over here. So it's really where you can just harvest the leaves and it will grow back again. So you can see at the bottom it's coming back. So it's really a very nice and easy lettuce that you can grow. So we have also some sweet potato leaves that's crawling all over, and is even crawling to this brown cotton plant. We have this scarlet kale. It's turning into quite an interesting color, even though it doesn't look like scarlet, it looks like purplish. And everything is, like, growing quite intensively. We got the money chai here and there. The ground cover is mostly, besides the sweet potato leaves, we have the Brazilian spinach. So Brazilian spinach seems like have spread all over the whole 4x1. And we have some butterfly pea, blue butterfly pea also, which I love to harvest some of the flowers from time to time. We have some of the cowpea. So this is a variety of cowpea that looks like, the seeds are like speckled, so pretty interesting. So we have all these speckled seeds, this type of cowpea. Yeah. Then yeah. So crawling in between, we even have something known as Mandara vine. It grows like a weed. It just climb over. The leaves are like something like this. So it's a bit of like a heart shape. Tastes somewhat like the Ceylon or the Malabar spinach. So we got more. This is a huge bush of more of a blue butterfly pea. This has been around for like the past 2 or 3 years. So it's been growing back and I've been cutting it down. So it grows more like a bush now. Then we have some kind of turmeric ginger, very established. I don't know how it got established. I think I threw the ginger into the middle and it just grew. And we have a bit of okra over here. If I'm not wrong, it was known as some Mayan okra or something. So it has this interesting color. We have like a hyacinth bean or the lap or the lap, and it's climbing and crawling over, giving me a lot of nice produce that I harvest from time to time. Then again, we have some money chai with something crawling all over the place. This is actually the wing bean. So the wing bean is not doing too well, even though it's like flowering and fruiting. So you can see a lot of aphids. Yeah, so I'm kind of like leaving it there for what it is, and I can keep it for seeds. For the better ones, I will harvest them, and some are a bit too old, so I'll keep it for seeds. So essentially, I'm like, growing fresh produce, and at the same time, I can keep more seeds, or I can share it with other community gardeners. Yeah. So I would say, even though it's tiny, but things has been like pretty much grown intensively. So it's like a form of bio-intensive way of gardening. Yeah. And we got another bigger okra over here. It's a bit too young to harvest, but so things are like, it's a hidden here and there. And not too long ago, I actually harvested like 2 wax gourd hidden right inside, and they grew so big. Both are more than 1 kilo. So looks like there's no more, so we shall wait for it to form again. And I have something new forming up, so hopefully it will form into another wax gourd maybe in a month or 2. So essentially, this is my compost bin on the rooftop garden. So most of what you can see here are garden cuttings, so cutting from the garden. I also top it up with my kitchen scraps and fruit peels that comes from home. So this is like maybe a week's worth of kitchen waste. So I think by combining all this together, I can really make something that is, even though it's waste, but once it becomes compost, it goes back to the land again and grow more vegetable for myself. And of course, sometimes I may also use these orange peels to make eco-enzyme. So this is the second tray, and I would say this is like pretty much ready for me to apply onto the plot. So interestingly, I seems to be getting black soldier fly, I guess. These are, I think they're still living and just going to turn into adult quite soon. And even though this is like not suitable to put in the rooftop and this kind of climate, but I realized that wow, there are even some earthworms here. So it's interesting to see how this compost is alive, I would say, with so many different things going on, earthworms and stuff like that. I'm surprised to see them, which is good. So despite the fact that we are on the rooftop and this kind of bin is like black and absorbing a lot of heat, but the earthworms are still thriving inside. Over at work, this is where I established a compost system, and working together with the cuttings from the garden, the harvest that's not going to be used for eating. So we really make use of this to make it a compost. Ultimately, when it's ready, this is where we can really use it to add fertility to what we are growing over here, over at this urban farm on this shopping mall where I'm doing my part-time work. Comparing to this is work versus like what I have been doing on my own rooftop garden. Of course, it is also for the public, so people come up and look at the garden. So I think to me, presentation is important here. So the aspect of as much as, yes, I'm still like doing companion planting and bio-intensive, but it is done in I would say in a neater way. It's much neater compared to what I'm doing over on my own, my personal plot, and also I would say also kind of a personal experiment also. So what I'm doing personally is really building up on my knowledge, and based on that, yeah, this is pretty much what you can see to make it more presentable, and I would say so far it's going pretty good. Teaching composting classes, I would say it's more like a passion. As and when there are people who are interested to know more about making compost, whatever my own experiences, I'm happy to share. Of course, there are so many ways to make compost, and I'm sure every, I would say, compost master or compost teacher out there, they have their own techniques and experience. Yeah, and I think that is still a lot to be learned, be it from experiences, or if we want to start to even test whatever we have made. I'm also part of the project Black Gourd by Foodscape Collective. So this is where really we want to like build this kind of a community composting hub, and after building this community hub, we hope that the compost that we make, we can really send it to the lab for testing, and we want to ascertain how good the compost is and what else can we do based on the lab tests and things like that.